Welcome to UnCeiling You, the podcast that helps you break through both the inner and outer ceilings holding you back, so you can rise in your career, lead with purpose, and live with confidence. I'm your host, Dr. Natalie Luke, and this show is where ambition and imagine meet action. Each week, we uncover real strategies, mindset shifts, and conversations that empower professionals, especially women, to lead boldly and build networks that lift them higher. And if you're new here, welcome. Make sure to check out the show notes. That's where we've included links, tools, and ways to go deeper inside the UnCeiling Zone, where listeners like you can get what you learned here and turn it into tangible growth. Today's episode, Stop Building Friendships and Start Building Power, will completely reframe how you think about networking and leadership. Because if you've ever felt like your professional relationships are warm, but not advancing your career, this conversation's for you. We're going to talk about how to build a network that doesn't just make you feel supported, it makes you stronger, smarter, and more visible. My guest today is Liz Weber, a woman whose expertise, insight have shaped leaders across industries. Liz has been recognized as one of the top 30 global leaders in 2025, along with icons like John Maxwell. And for good reason. When Liz talks, her clients listen. In fact, they often call her before they call their C-suite colleagues or even their spouses, because she knows how to help leaders focus on the right things at the right time to enhance performance, profits, and workplace culture. Liz is a trusted advisor to boards, owners, executive teams, and today she's here at the UnCeiling You podcast. She's sharing how women can stop confusing friendship with strategic connection. By the end of this episode, you'll learn how to design your network like a spice rack with the right mix of people who feed different parts of your growth, how to apply Liz's 5-5-5 framework to strengthen your influence, and how to communicate ideas with clarity and confidence without apologizing or over-explaining. This is one of those episodes you'll want to take notes, because we're not just talking about leadership theory. We're talking about how power is built, shared, and sustained. So grab your notebook or that second cup of coffee and let's dive in. Hi, Liz. I'm so happy to have you onto the UnCeiling You podcast. And I'm super excited for people to hear all of the things that you've learned, because you've worked with executives and board leaders who often feel very isolated at the top, even when they're surrounded by people. And this is something I hear from executives as well, but you hear more intimate information. Not only that, you've done surveys. So my first question for you is, how can women in leadership build networks that offer just not opportunity, but true support, because it's so lonely at the top?
That's a great question. And on the surface, for somebody who's not been in a leadership role, Natalie, that you've alluded to, that can be isolating, you can't appreciate how hard it is to find a network of people that, number one, that get it and that understand. How do I say this? You're not looking to become best friends and consume their time. You're looking for individuals who get it, that when you spend time together, whether it's in person, virtual, coffee, whatever, it's kind of like picking up with your best friend from college, because there's just such an ease of understanding of the world that you operate in. So I say that as a premise, and I lay that as a foundation, because to your question, when women are looking to expand their professional network, which is important, number one, you need to expand it across genders, because there's insight that can be gained from all different perspectives, and as many inroads and different perspectives that you can gain, more power to you. The other thing that I recommend my clients keep in mind, and this has kind of just been a philosophy that I guess I've lived by, is view your network like a spice rack. You need a lot of different things, because there are different aspects of your professional world that you need insight on. And there are experts or others who have lived through it that can provide that insight. Whether it's scaling your company, whether it's developing talent, building talent, whether it's taking a new product to market, whether it's just determining if you're going to start working with a board or not, or create a board for your company. It's just, someone to talk to go, oh my God, I didn't realize being a business owner was going to be this hard. And it can also be, individuals that understand how you juggle being a business owner or being an executive and being a partner in a relationship and being a parent and being a community member and all those types of things. So I say that to say, be clear on what you want your network to do for you, and then open your eyes to all the different possible spices and types of people that can feed that need to varying degrees.
So that brings me to two follow-up questions. One is, do you see women using their network differently than men? And when it comes to building a network, do you see women doing it differently than men?
Yes. What I see women do differently than men is I see women more often than men do. Women build a network to support them personally, to be a personal support network of other women who are in the same positions as they are, who can truly empathize with them. They don't build a network such as what I just described. Yes, there's a part of your network that you want people to empathize with you and understand the challenges of the position you're in. But the other part of the network are those individuals that you have earned the credibility and right to reach out to them at a spur of the moment and say, hey, Natalie, can I get 5 minutes? I really don't want to sit and talk. I just want to grab you for 5 minutes because I want to run something by you. I don't see that happening as much with my women clients as men do that. I also have had successful women and men tell me is they do just that. They can have a really quick 5-minute conversation and they're good. They don't want to sit and talk and talk and talk and talk. So that's a difference. The other part of your question is I encourage women to leverage their network more. An exercise when I'm presenting to women business owners or groups of primarily women, I'll take them through what I call a 5-5-5 exercise. And the 5-5-5 exercise is Jim Rohn had a saying, and my mother, I didn't know that she ever picked this up, but she always used to say to us, you are the average of the 5 people with whom you most often associate. And she would say that to my siblings and I when we were growing up, basically saying, be smart in who your friends are because they will influence you. I was very fortunate. I had a great group of friends. Well, Jim Rohn coined that phrase and that idea in the business arena to say, surround yourself, your inner circle, with people who feed you. Okay, so when I give a presentation, the first 5 of the 5-5-5 exercise is who are the 5 people who most influence you? And it can be a combination of personal and professional individuals. And you think about that because, we know individuals who are negative tend to suck us down. Individuals who are positive and supporting tend to boost us up. And so if you are surrounding and I'll also add individuals who like to learn cause us to continue to learn. Individuals who don't like to continue to learn tend to drag us down. So that is your first 5 of just kind of a reality check. Who are you spending most of your bandwidth feeding you and how is that impacting you? The second 5 of the 5-5-5 is when you look at your network, as we've been talking about, who are the 5 individuals that you need to spend more time with, given where you are right now and where you want to go.
Right.
Okay. And the third 5 of the 5-5-5 is who do you want to add to your network, given where you are now and where you want to go. So do you need to rebalance your portfolio of your network? And this is where I would encourage your listeners to look at your network, look at your spice rack. How much pepper do you have on your spice rack? How much cinnamon do you have on your spice rack? Where can you get some individuals that, again, when you reach out to them, don't say, can I have an hour of your time? Because most people don't want to give you an hour. They don't have an hour, particularly if they're very successful. But if you say, can I I grab I promise, no more than 10 minutes of your time. I can't tell you how many yeses you'll get, and then you respect that 10 minutes. And if you're able to quickly jump on that call or in that conversation, I promise you, by the time you get to the end of the 10 minutes, more often than not, they'll say, I have a couple more minutes if you want to keep talking, if you've been concise and if you've been focused. But if you start out, I'm just so overwhelmed and I don't know where to go, and you feel, if you start piling on to them of why you want to talk with them, what you create in their psyche is like they swam out to you to try to save you, and now they're trying to save you, and now you're piling on them and you're going to drown them and yourself. So make it comfortable for them. Instead of saying, Natalie, I'm so glad I got to talk to you, the conversation could be, hey, Natalie, I really appreciate your time. Let me clarify a little bit further why I asked for this 10 minutes with you. What I'm looking at right now with my business is this, and I'm planning on trying to expand into this area. And you've got so much knowledge and had so much success in that vein. I'm wondering if I could share a couple of my ideas, and if you would just give me your feedback if you think I'm tracking in the right direction, or how you think I should adjust. Boom, and then stop talking. It's very different.
That is so powerful. And you don't even have to be a business owner. You can be a manager, hey, looking up to a higher manager, asking the same type of question. I really respect your leadership style. This is the situation. This is how I'm thinking about managing this. What insight do you have?
Right.
It could be, and that is so powerful. And for the listeners, I encourage you, if you're not driving and you're listening to this, even if you're listening while doing something else, multitasking, stop, write down your 555, and then turn this back on and let's keep going. So you surveyed over 400 professionals, men and women, about what helps or hinders women leadership success, which is amazing that you did this survey. What did you discover about the role that community plays in helping women succeed or even stall in their leadership? Well,
thank you for the question. I'm gonna adjust a little bit, because I can't speak to the question of what community plays, because the survey questions weren't worded that way. But the gist of the results of the survey were really, help identify what women unintentionally are doing that's causing others to question their leadership capabilities. And it was really intended to uncover some of those hidden insights. And regardless of hierarchy, so it could be a frontline leader or it could be someone in the C-suite, the common theme was women more than men tend to underestimate and undersell their capabilities. And it somewhat goes to the previous conversation we just had, Natalie, of the example of jumping into the 5-minute conversation. We tend to give the background history and an excuse for why we're doing what we're doing when we then ask for something. So in the survey, what the respondents were saying was, if you pay attention in a team meeting or boardroom or whatever it is, pay attention to the men in the room. I'm not male bashing. We need to learn this behavior. Pay attention to the men, because you might have Rory that'll say, I believe we should do X. And he'll just randomly run something off. And you're thinking in your head, that makes no sense whatsoever. But he conveys it with such confidence that he buys enough time to build up the rationale for it and possibly get commitment to it. What women will tend to do, and I say tend to do because this is stereotypical, is not voice an idea until they're comfortable that they're going to be able to back it, or someone else is going to help them back it. And it goes very similar to my example of quickly jumping in when you're asking someone for their time. And so the survey responses were saying the women, when they're presenting an idea, when they're trying to get support for something, I think the biggest takeaway from the survey responses is the feedback coming from women and men, all different hierarchies and organizations, was simply this. They want the women who work with them and for them to be much more confident and solid when they are presenting their ideas, when they are fighting for a decision or a project they believe in, as confidently as anybody else in the room. And then understand that sometimes People are going to listen to those ideas, and sometimes they're going to ignore those ideas. That's the way it is. Don't take it personally. Take it like this is part of my job. And when you get the win, you get the win. When you don't get the win, you don't get the win. You move on. The biggest thing, and Natalie, I share this with all of my clients. You need to do the job you're being paid to do. Gender is irrelevant. So if you are the CFO, if you are the director of produce for a grocery store, if you own a beauty salon, whatever your job is, that's the job you have to do with confidence so that your customers, your colleagues believe you can do the job that you have.
And it's sometimes ideas come in the spur of the moment. And I could see where someone, they feel like they should, well, especially, I'm just speaking for me. I act with a lot of intuition, and I have over the years trusted my intuition. And when I didn't trust my intuition, it's like, God darn it, I knew I should have trusted it. And so that helped me build my trust. I wonder, and I want to get your perspective on this, when that intuition hits, when that idea hits, do you think women tend to get apologetic? Hey, I'm sorry, I need to point this out, instead of saying, hey, we need to consider blah, 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 blah. Do you think also that for me, I kind of feel like, hey, if your intuition hits, trust it, go with it, because you're going to add value to the company, and don't apologize for it.
Right. No, exactly. I completely agree with that. And in fact, it's something that I continue to practice myself, because when I'm in front of a group facilitating strategic planning sessions or whatever, there are a lot of those things that come spur at the moment that I'm like, wow, I got an insight here. We need to talk about this. And how I say it, either if I was like, that's a good insight and I'll just share it. Or the other thing, when I haven't thought it through yet, I will say, I'm brainstorming out loud with you right now, but what about this? And I'll share an idea. So they know I haven't thought it through. I haven't had time to justify it, but I get the idea out there. The other thing that we need to get comfortable doing is if you have insight because of something you read, something you experienced, something whatever, you don't need to say, well, I read this yesterday. You can just say, according to the Wall Street Journal, here's the latest data on this. And you come across as fact-based, not, yes, I was reading yesterday in the Wall Street Journal. Again, if you just say, according to the Wall Street Journal, this is what's happening, or according to Forbes, this is what's happening. It's a way to build credibility in a much shorter time frame. We don't need to give the background. We need to give the information.
There you go. I love that. And that's a very nice little tweak. Easy to do.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Now, you've helped many leaders ask some very important questions, like, who's going to do my job after me? And some people are a little afraid to ask that question because they're thinking, well, what does that mean for me? But it's an important question because, if you help other people grow, then you have room to grow yourself. What role does relationship building play in preparing the next generation of women leaders, but also help you grow to that next level?
Relationship building in the professional arena is key. And I want to explain something, because some of your listeners may have a misperception of what I'm talking about when I'm talking about relationship building. And I say this because I facilitated a panel discussion at a conference years ago, and the panelists were talking about elevating their business, something like that. And repeatedly, as you can well imagine, during those conversations from the panelists, they kept saying the importance of relationships. When it got time to Q&A, somebody from the audience said, you all keep talking about relationships. I'm trying to build a business. I'm not trying to build friendships. So why do you keep talking about relationships? And so I clarified for the person in the audience, when we're talking about professional relationships, this goes back to what I alluded to when we first started talking, Natalie. Absolutely. There may be times when you develop friendships with individuals who are colleagues, maybe coworkers. But when we're talking about developing relationships, a friendship is not the initial end game. What we're doing is we're trying to establish a very easy working relationship where if I email you or I text you or I call you, your first reaction when you see that incoming communique from me is not, oh God, it's Liz. Your first response should be, I wonder what Liz wants. And you'll take it right away because I'm not reaching out unless it's something important, it's quick, and you can answer it and get done and go away. And so that's what I'm talking about. It's also building a relationship that if you work for me and I hand a project off to you, I don't have to worry about it until you give it back because I know it's going to be done well. It's going to be done on time. It's going to be done within budget. If there's any issues, you give me a heads up well in advance. There are no surprises when I work with you. I know that I can work well with you because we just communicate well. We get things done. That's what I'm talking about when we're talking about relationship building in work. And so that's where individuals need to understand your credibility is built on relationships, and you will get pulled into opportunities when you are easy to work with, you're easy to communicate with, you're quick to respond, they can count on you to get things done, and you don't create drama in their world.
That's the type of person I like to work with.
There you go. There you go. And you only gain the right to share any of the drama that you might be dealing with when you have that relationship already established.
Yeah. I remember there was one person I almost hired and there ended up being a lot of drama before I even actually sent off the contract, and I just pulled it back. It's like, man, I haven't even hired you and we've got the drama.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep.
Now, one of the things that you talked about and what you're really alluding to also is that when you talk, people listen. And that kind of credibility is rare and earned. So why do you think so many women wait to speak up until it's almost too late?
Yeah, I think it circles back to a number of things we've already covered.
Uh-huh.
Is number one, they're not understanding or appreciating the role that is expected of them. And what I mean by this is, what do the individuals you work with or work for expect of you? And making the widgets or supervising the team that makes the widgets, that's normal, okay? What they also expect of you, though, is giving them a heads up when there's something that might blindside them, something that might cause an issue for them, something that could be an opportunity for them, something that you've heard is happening in another division that if it's not addressed, it's going to have ramifications not only for your team, but for other teams. That's not tattling, that's being strategic. And so it's being able to do your job, okay? Supervisor of widget makers, whatever it is, and produce the transactions and handle the transactions that are expected. But it's that, what else are you offering up to the person above you or out to your colleagues that when you speak in a meeting, they go, wait a minute, did she just say that this is happening over in the marketing department and that we need to pay attention to this in our department because it's going to affect us in 3 months? That's very different than when I come to a management meeting and it's like, okay, Liz, it's time for you to report out on your team. And I just give a laundry list of things my team has accomplished. Nobody else cares. Nobody else cares. Everybody is bored by the time I get to the second bullet point. But if instead I say, yeah, my team is hitting all the marks. We're doing great. I'm very proud of them. However, there's a couple of things that we thought were important that we wanted to share to the team. What we're finding out with the new software launch is that our response rate by our customers has gone down by 4% in the first month alone. So we've already reached out to the IT department to figure out if there's something in the layout, if there's something that's happening that's making it more difficult for our customers to get back to us. That's very different. And that causes people to see you in a different light. You're still the supervisor of widget makers, but you're thinking beyond your team of widget makers.
Right. That is really powerful. And in that example, you're showing yourself as a problem solver. Like, you identified the problem, you reached out to the team, you're giving other people a heads up that it's happening. So what else could be happening in other departments that might be related? So powerful.
Natalie, I'll take it a step further. It's not only have you, and you were right to identify this, not only have you elevated yourself from problem identifier to problem solver, which is huge, because a lot of individuals just go, oops, there's a problem here, and they try to delegate it up.
Like, so it's a hot potato.
It's a hot potato. It's above my pay grade, okay? So you've elevated yourself from problem identifier to problem solver, but I'm going to take it a step or two further than that. You've now identified not only a problem solver, but potentially an opportunity identifier. So we've now identified we've got a problem with this new platform launch. We're going to solve it, but we think if we do X, Y, and Z tweak, we can actually turn the numbers and get them going up and reach a broader market. And you suddenly now are also creating a partnership with the IT division, which you've never really worked well with before. So you've gone from problem identifier to partner.
Right.
Huge. It's huge.
Going back to networking, and it's also going back to a business relationship.
Exactly. It's who can you help elevate given your insight, your understanding, your personality? Who else can you help lift up? Because you lift them up, you're going to lift yourself up. And you're going to have their back, they're going to have your back. You start getting stronger and stronger.
And that goes to a corporate culture. If you have a bunch of people doing the same thing, having your back, you're having their back, it helps the whole organization grow, helps the companies grow, helps the customers have a better product, all of it. So this networking and relationship forming and making sure that you have other people's back, looking to solve the problem, not just identify the problem, don't hand it off as a hot potato, is so important. What company doesn't want that for their employees? You talk about the difference between growing, because all of this helps you grow your career. If you can continually do this every day, we're talking about the difference between growing your career and staying strong once you arrived, because you're going to arrive, stay strong, and keep growing. In your experience, what's the difference between a network that grows your career and one that sustains your leadership? Is there a difference?
I don't think there's a difference. Looping back to what we started with before, because going back to my 5-5-5 exercise, I believe individuals, as you move through life, as you move through careers, should be reevaluating your 5-5-5. So as you maybe move up a chain in an organization, as you transition careers, as you transition industries, as you transition whatever, evaluate your 5-5-5 and reevaluate your network. Is it the right network to help you move into the next phase of your journey that you want to go on?
I think that is so powerful. So we're going to wrap up this portion, but then I have 5 rapid fire questions for you that goes in the inner circle. So we have a Spark community, people that are just listening to these rapid fire questions. And then we have an unsealed community, people that are actually taking action. And for that unsealed folks, I will meet with them once a month on a regular basis, but then we'll have pop-up calls. We will have a pop-up call on the 5-5-5 and work that together. So that gives you a good excuse and set point to start working on your 5-5-5. But before we move into the rapid fire questions, I know that there's got to be leaders that are listening to you saying, oh, we got to have Liz come join our company and talk to our employees. How would they get a hold of you, and how would individuals get a hold of you?
Well, there's 2 ways. Number one, they can go to my website, which is W as in William, B as in boy, S as in Sam, L as in Lima, L as in Lima, C as in Charlie.com. WBSLLC.com. That stands for WeberBusinessServices.com. Or they can go to my LinkedIn profile. And my LinkedIn profile is at Liz Weber, CMC. Weber has 1 B.
Excellent. And I will put that into the show notes as well. Any wrap-up statements before we go to the rapid fire questions?
I guess my wrap-up statement would be, if you deal with imposter syndrome, and we all do, but if you seem to have a heavy load of imposter syndrome, I encourage you to look at those things that you do in your professional world that you just do well, that when you do them, you have more energy after you do them than before you started, and lean into those areas of expertise and start leveraging those areas of expertise in your work world, and be more assertive and clear and succinct in sharing the value that those activities or those insights bring to others. And it'll be a step forward in helping you expand your profile, your influence, and your brand.
Thank you.
What I want to clarify also for your listeners is I don't want any of your listeners to believe that they can never let their guard down and be honest with individuals at work and colleagues. An example, yesterday, I had a virtual conversation with a colleague. She and I are working on a project. We had a meeting last week, Friday. She's very stressed. She's dealing with some internal turmoil in politics. And yesterday we had another meeting and she said, between you and me, in the confidence of this call, I need to tell you X. This is what's going on. And I said, I appreciate that. In the confidence of this conversation between you and I need you to be aware of why. And so she and I, in that confidence of that conversation, because she and I have built a relationship over the past 18 months, I completely trust her. Mm-hmm. And because she was the one that started in the confidence of this conversation, she trusts me. So I share that with your listeners to, again, don't believe, if you interpreted anything I said to say, don't be vulnerable at work, you can, but you need to do it with precision in who you share that side of you with.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you being on UnCeiling You and lending your insights and your wisdom to everybody, plus your discoveries of the 400 individuals that you surveyed.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I enjoyed it.
What an incredible conversation. Today we learned that real power doesn't come from having more friends. It comes from building the right relationships. Liz reminded us that your network should look more like a spice rack, full of people who add something different to your growth. The 5-5-5 framework helps you access who fuels your success and who might be draining it. And most importantly, confidence doesn't come from over-explaining or apologizing. It comes from clarity, preparation, and trusting your intuition. So as you move through your week, take a moment to look at your own network. Ask yourself, who do I need to spend more time with? Who should I try to add to my circle? And maybe even, who do I need to release? Join me inside the UnCeiling Zone. It's where we take these ideas and turn them into real change. You'll find the link in the show notes along with the resources from Liz, including her website. Remember, when you stop building friendships and start building power, you don't just elevate yourself, you elevate everyone around you. Thank you so much for listening to the UnCeiling You podcast. If this episode resonated, share it with a friend or a colleague who's ready to rise. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss what's next. Until next time, take radical responsibility for your growth and watch the ripple effect unfold.